Hey everyone, welcome to Starr Mazer TV. I'm Auston Montville, the game developer of Starr Mazer, and we're going to do a coding session today. So we've got the team, we have Don and Vanessa and Cosmo, they're all off at South by Southwest, helping promote the game and checking things out there. So if you're in Austin, or if you know anybody who's in Austin, Texas, you should totally check out the booth that we have there. It's going to be open for a few days, and I think tomorrow or the day after it is available open to the public from noon to 8, so you totally want to check that out. There's a bunch of really cool games there, not only Starr Mazer but also our buddies Read Only Memories are there, Crosscode's are there, and there's a bunch of other amazing games. Rockets is going to be there. So yeah, if you are in the South by Southwest area, you should totally be checking that out. But for the next 2 hours, because you're not at South by Southwest, we are going to do some programming. So I'm going to go over to my screen here, and we've got a couple of things that's going on here. So I have this window that allows us to see tasks. And I'm going to make that the window that we look at most of the time, which is a cool Starr Mazer window. So there's a couple of things that we want to achieve today. This is a task list, and you will see it on the stream, hopefully. So before we jump into it, we're just gonna like do coding today. Like it's not going to be quite like the last session that we did where I was showing a lot of interactive stuff, building cool content that we're actually playing around with it. This is going to be a lot more just making the game because I need to do that right now. So yeah, we're going to be working on that. So I'm going to write down a list of a couple of things that I want to get done within this next 2 hours. We won't make it too ambitious, but we'll see what we can get done. I'll try to explain some of the things that are going on, and also you're going to see me look over to the left a lot because the chat is there. I'll move it so it's slightly closer in. But when I'm looking over to the left like this, that's me looking at your words. So feel free to continue talking with me, and I will answer your questions that you might have about whatever's going on. So I will try to explain it a little bit, but I'm going to get into just coding and making things. Things that we want to do today. We are working with the node system, and this is our editor that allows us to actually link up real-time events. So this is sort of what it looks like. You'll notice there's like I've got these little node blocks, and I can create more of them, and I can do neat things like I can link them together in sequence or whatever. I can chain events. I can unlink them. We've got some cool functionality with this, but really what I want to do is I want to fill up these boxes with content. I actually had them already filled with content, but I redesigned the way that they're shown. And so now these displays where it says like node name here and it doesn't have anything in these boxes, those are individual setups for each of these, and now they all have their own classes as opposed to having one single class which controls all of them. So we're going to go out and fill out those classes, basically just move some code over. So that is one of our primary concerns, which is fill out classes for node windows. And there's a bunch of those, but so we're just going to take that as sort of a generic thing. Yeah, Alex, I agree. Your big bold flank. We should get rid of this first item, which is just make Starr Mazer. Yeah, that's not actually going to get done today. I wanted to make sure the list there, because if the game was done today, then you'd be playing it tomorrow. But that's not the case. So yeah, filling out the classes for the node windows. That's a large section of what we want to do. I think that's the majority of it. So it's a terrible to-do list. Oh yeah, I want to break out some of I want to make classes or functions for generic editor views. So like what that means is that we have these things, these little pieces that we can put inside these blocks. Right, this one says node name, and it's a text string that we can enter in. I want to create a couple of generic ones and break those out. I actually want to do that first, so we're going to put that at the top. And I think that's all I have off the top of my head. As we get into this, I'm sure I'll think of more things that we'll end up working on. For now, the other thing we want to do is test to make sure our event works. A lot of the stuff I've been working on over the past few days is this system, sort of redoing it, representing it, changing the order and functionality of it because I've been trying to incorporating undo, which undo works a little bit. If I get rid of this window, I can hit Control Z and it will come back. It doesn't automatically link them. Linking, I'm having trouble undoing, which there's a post up on the Unity answers forum. If you're a Unity guru, you should totally check that out and tell me what the answer is. Because there are some things, I don't know, this whole editor thing is very new to me. Normally when I'm building my games, I'm just writing the code myself and I'm the only developer working on the project. Or I'm working with a small enough, like I'm working with people who are far enough removed that they're not getting in the engine, but I want the entire team to really be working on the engine on this one. So I am going ahead and making these tools so that everyone can work with the game themselves without having to worry about code. So that's a lot of what this is going on right now. So I'm going to dive into it. I'm not going to be talking a whole lot, so you're going to see a lot of codes there. So if you have questions about what's going on, that's going to be the best way to interact with me. But I will sort of explain when I have issues or when I'm thinking about something. We'll go into it. But for now, I'm going to crank up some beats. You won't hear them because if I were to play those beats, then it would be against the rules. So we're going to get rid of this one program. And you're going to instead just hear my voice and the clacking. But if you want to join with me today, I'm going to be listening to a bunch of Tanuki's work. On all this stuff's on SoundCloud, so if you want to check that out, feel free to listen to it. Really good stuff. All right, let's get to coding. So I have this node window class, which is good. It's got my generic stuff, but there's a node editor window, I think. So this is mono-developed. This is where I write all my code. It's an okay editor. A lot of people swear by Visual Studio, but this is what I use on my Mac. All right. So this is a lot of the stuff that I want to have access to. These sort of generic windows here. Let's break them up into functions. So this is going to be one of our first tasks, is where we're breaking up things into individual functions. And what I really want to do here is take this switch case and bring them into a bunch of individual functions that can each render out their own displays. So we'll go through the process with an Int32 and see what happens with it. So, property info isn't accessible in that other class. I gotta find out what it's a part of. It should be accessible from the editor. I don't know if Node Windows in the editor folder. When you're making editor classes in Unity, you have to put them in a specific folder, so otherwise they don't have access to the right information. So let's see where Node Window is. It is in the editor. So I have to find out why it doesn't have access to that property info. Hello, Comic Central. Oh, I know who that is. That's somebody who's working on Heifer Heist. She's a very talented artist. Sorry, very skilled artist. Yeah, so property info should be accessible. I don't know why it's not accessible. Reflection. There we go. That's probably what needs it. Yeah. Reflection's an interesting feature of C#. It's the ability for you to sort of dig through generic classes and access properties and their methods without knowing exactly what they are. It's kind of slow, it's kind of bulky, but for an editor window, it's fine. You don't want to use this in real-time code. Hey, Toshigami. Coding lesson, that would be giving this stream too much credit. More of just coding check it out time. But yeah, feel free to ask questions if you have any questions about code or things we're working on or things I'm working on. Okay. Let's throw an integer in here just to draw it and make sure it works well. I have to get a property. Alex wants us to move the reminders. Yeah, we can do that. We get to see this a little bit. Oop. Here we go. Oop. Maybe that'll be a little bit better. Now you can see more of my coding window. Medias Vias, this code is for Starr Mazer. Specifically, this is code working on the node system. So this is a visual editor that allows us to construct the game without code. I'm deciding whether I should access the property info outside of or within the function. Let's go find an int from base property. Actually, let's do it from this as a test. Yeah, kind of weird to C# on a Mac, isn't it? Let's see what that looks like. And there's my compilers. What do we got here? Property is not set to, it's probably not serialized properly. I should just do this with an actual real value, as opposed to just using this test thing. Let's go find a value to use. Can be Boolean. Yeah. Well, we could do order. Yeah, let's get order. It's this. I need my base object. still all of the compile errors. So it's not able to get this property. Oh, it always comes from base object. Yeah, that's fine in this case, but I should probably actually pass the object. Or I just get it all within here. Yeah, I think I'm just going to get it all within here. There we go. But it's still not going to get that because it couldn't find order. Ah, because it's going to an event-based object. Need a better way to access exactly what I want it to be. I'll pass the object through. Yeah. You take what kind of object? That should give us something. Wait for it to compile. Nope. It's time to find out what I'm doing wrong. So I'm going to print out some debug information. A mix of Kiro, Kamu Pamu, just Kamu Pamu music. I'm telling you, Tanuki, good stuff. Let's see what these are. All right, we got access to a whole bunch of properties here now. Order, that's the property. It's taking the public one. I was grabbing the wrong one. Once this compiles, there's a little circle thing that shows it compiling in the bottom that you can't see. Hey, look at that. We got our order there. All right, let's get rid of this debug info. So I have to actually, when I'm grabbing properties, I have to grab the publicly accessible one, which I guess makes sense. Let's put it in line with everything right here. There we go. Look at that. So now we have our new order value in here, and I can set that to whatever I want, but it's only integers, so I can set to integers. So that's working for our new simple function. We've got one here called drawIn32. So this, we just pass it the variable that we want it to, and it'll draw an integer 32. This is cool because we can use this generically in the node window, but we can also use it more specifically in these individual specific events. You'll see that a little bit more later on. Big Bold Flank says he hopes we can agree on an editor structure that creators can follow. So if everything needs to be imported, you don't have to manually rearrange everything. Yeah, I wonder, like, especially these things are going to get messy as they're going to be over. I actually have a really complicated one. I don't know if it'll load because I'm in the middle of things. Let me see if I can show it to you. Slimo conversation. I have to bring it out here real quick. Yeah, no, it's totally broken. You'll see it soon enough after I finish this code, hopefully by the end of the stream. Nice to see you chatting things, the double act. Okay. Let's get the other ones moving over here. Let me do later. Draw Boolean. So now we're going to draw a Boolean value. Actually, I'm going to set up a bunch of things so we can draw a whole bunch of different stuff. Oh, I don't need this anymore. So this is what my days look like. Most of the days I'm sitting around doing this. At least I will be for the next month or so, until we're starting to create more content. Thanks, the double act. Thank you for pepperoni dog fart. Oh, Coco Woshi, thank you for stopping by our PAX East booth. Yeah, this is what the people not at the booths get to do. And by the people not at the booths, I mean me, because I was the one not at the booth. Hey, Kay Solinsky, I think I know who that is. Once somebody up in Vancouver. Good to have you in the chat. You can see what I get to do every day. I do a lot of this. This is what I do. I write codes, listen to techno music. Once again, if you want to follow along with the beats that are coming out of these headphones, go check out Tanuki's SoundCloud. Of course, you can always go to Starr Mazer's SoundCloud and just listen to Starr Mazer music on loop. I don't even know what I took. Float. Yeah, I need to incorporate tech into the actual code lines here to crank it up. Alex is asking, have we considered security encryption options? Unity 3D memory editor is very easy to allow users to view modified game variables. Freaking go for it, dude. You know, if you want to hack up the game, I mean, it's going to be mostly a single-player experience. We are building a thing for you. If you want to change what we built, go for it. I'm down. I want to see what you make. This one's a complicated one. This draws an array. See if we can get this one working. I might actually go test this one out. This one's a little more complicated. I use link in here. I just use all the things I never like to use. Link's in a library that allows you to do cool search algorithms and whatnot. All right. Let's see if this works. How many arrays? So we're going to do a little sample to make sure some of our code works. I wonder how many people on the stream write C# code? How many people on the stream know what's going on here? So Alex suggests that someone could hack into the game and finding things, you know, a person could data mine the Slimo did kill bunny bitshift variable and share that. Even if that was a variable that exists in the game, that's a variable that you would turn on or off based off of your own gameplay. And so, yes, you might be able to reveal the possibilities by hacking the memory, but that's not going to necessarily reveal the experiences. Yeah, MySBS is mentioning about link. This is just for our editor code. I would not use that in gameplay code. The editor is just simply what affects our Unity editor, what we use. So it will be fine. You can actually use link in in multiple platforms. I think there are certain restrictions on it. It's mostly the restriction is that it runs like poop. What did I do? There we go. Kokoushi, thank you for the moral support. I hope you have fun hanging out with us and looking at code. Alright, look at that working. Look at that, great. We got our little array thing working. That's nice. Big Bold Fank says, or a switch, a show super secret difficulty mega victorious ending cinematic boolean without actually completing the steps. Yeah, I don't know. Like, is that a thing people care about? Do people care if you can hack a single player experience? I mean, like my experience with hacking was, Diablo 2 item edits and whatnot, and that would just, you'd use a single player, you'd break it. And I played with that a little bit, but I don't know. I mostly just want to play the game. Is it a bad thing for your game to be hackable if it's a single player game? Honestly, the player can play the game the way they want to. We make a thing for you, but what you do with it after that is up to you. Unless it compromises the experience of other players, which the internet does just by having spoilers on it. So, when the game comes out, don't go on the internet for a couple of days. Have your own experience. Okay, that was working. Let's get rid of all that test stuff. We'll leave that there. I might have to test some other things. So Mattias BS is asking about the editor for the game. So when I say editor, is Starr Mazer going to work with its own Scum-style engine? I've never used Scum, so I don't know how Scum-style it is. But this is sort of what it looks like. So these are event things. They're going to have a bunch of information in them. As we go on in the stream, I'm going to be revealing more bits of information here. But yeah, basically we have events that link together. You link them by dragging these sort of nodes together and they connect. And that just simply indicates the sequence of an event. They can split off, they can branch, you can group them. You can do a bunch of things with those, which I'm all exposing those into the editor. This stuff is actually all functioning. It's all functioning over here in the default Unity expector. But if you look at this jarble of text, and if you actually reference the last stream, it was pretty confusing checking out everything in there. So I want to make it a lot more visually appealing, a lot more intuitive to use. So I'm basically making a UI for building our game. Alex is saying that the developers of Binding and Isaac hid a super secret Easter egg that was designed to take many, many playthroughs and very specific death patterns. So it was supposed to take weeks and lots of community support. Someone determined it and cut that down to a couple of days. The developers were pretty ticked. That is a legitimate concern. If there's something that we want hidden and we want it to be found through gameplay, we would have to actually code it in a secured way so that hackers don't find it, unless we want hackers to be the one to find it. That's interesting. Normally I would consider such things basically a waste of development time. But if it's something that we actually want to keep hidden, and we don't want it to be found out for a certain period of time, then encryption would be a way to go. I wonder how much encryption it would take to hide something like that. I'm not familiar with the sort of hacks that you're talking about. And so I'd have to become more knowledgeable about them and find out ways to solve the easiest cases. And turn it into something that would be easier to solve by playing the game. But we'll see how secret we want to keep our secrets. All right, now that our int array is working, let's go drag a few more over. I think I have a few more arrays. All right, let's grab a couple more arrays over. Keep all the arrays grouped together. Why not? So once again, what I'm doing is I'm grouping this whole switch case statement that was in an old class that I don't use anymore into functions in a master class, or parent class, whatever you call it, superclass, so that the subclasses can access them. The superclass is the generic class that draws these windows. So all these windows are controlled by a class called nodeWindow. And so I have subclasses for the very specific ones. Like this is an event-focused camera window. So I'm going to make a specific one for event-focused camera so it displays different information than the event sequence or the time since level node. And we'll be able to customize each of those. But they do share some generic things, such as this link, unlink bar, the close thing, the debug menu. That's another thing we got to put in. Display debug window for node windows. Another thing on our task list. Oh, Coco Wushi's working on artwork. What artwork are you working on? I wish I was working on artwork. Then again, I also wish I was working on code. One of those things is true, so I'm still pretty stoked. Draw string array is already fine, because this is a draw game object. Alright. Cool. Let's grab that out. Now we have this one for a draw string list, is what we'll call that. There's probably a much better way to do this, so I don't have to do this individually for all the different types. But I'll solve that later. For now, I don't mind having full control over each individual type, because although they're all similar right now, I can do custom things for each type if I want to. Oh, we're good. Oh man, there's a PNG there. I'm going to click on that in a minute. Nessie. I'm unfamiliar with that tech tool. Oh man, you should all click on that link. That's a pretty cool piece of artwork. It's some Harlequin Ivy action, I think, there. If I am correct. Yeah, when you're coding, it's hard to listen to things. Why are you confused? This is a list. You know what a list is. A list is totally within this context. Did I not include generics? Never mind, it's not. There we go. But yeah, when you're coding, at least when I'm coding, it uses a part of my brain that talking functions are also used for. So the fact that I'm actually communicating with you is difficult. That's why I go through long bouts of just saying nothing. And so I can actually focus on working. But whenever I'm doing art, it's freaking awesome. I can watch TV shows, like whatever, like doesn't matter. I can have full conversations with people. Unless it's designing something. Like if I'm designing something I've never drawn before, or, have to come up with a concept for something like that. That will take my brain cycles. But it's just rendering, yeah, you can just draw. It's great. All right, let's put an animation code in here. This is going to be one of those things where it's like boring for a super long time. You're just checking these out and you're like, oh, he's doing all this thing that's whatever. And then all of a sudden I'll open up the editor window. It'll be a bunch of cool stuff. Actually, it'll be a bunch of compiler errors, and then it'll be a bunch of cool stuff after I fix that. TextFool says that writing C# using a nice moderator is so much better because I get nice stuff like error checking and autocomplete. Is this, like, do I have to check my code privilege or something? Like, I feel so grateful now that I'm dealing with all of this. I have such very specific things in here, like drawing this move on nav mesh. Move on nav mesh is a class I made so that you can force characters to move around on nav meshes. It's appropriately named. Kokawushi likes listening to techno and trailer music while working. I've been listening to a lot of future bass recently, some glitch hop, a type of electronic music. For TextFool gets syntax styling in SC. Alright, hey, at least you got that. I was writing assembly once and it was just Notepad. It's because I didn't know any better, but whenever I'm writing code like this, I'm doing a very similar thing over and over again. I feel that there's a way to condense it. There's a better way to write it. There probably is. I just don't know what that is right now. So we'll keep going. We'll figure it out later. Almost done this portion. So these all represent the types of objects that are on display on our event nodes. And that's all of them. We've got this default one. Oh, my computer has frozen. There we go. Unknown type. And that's in case we don't know what we're drawing. Cool. Alright, we have dragged everything over here. So now we have the ability to draw any generic things on here. So we need to start actually going ahead and filling this stuff out. Now, I think that warrants a thing. Yeah, this one, I think. Let me see it. Get reviews. Yeah. Finished one. Alright. We're an hour in and 1 out of 4. Oh, NS, man. You're catching my stuff. I typed uncone. Look at that. Thanks. I appreciate that. Saving me from my own typos. And messing up the code base and screwing up everything for years. At a company I worked at once, there was a core function that had the word receive in it, and it was spelt wrong. But it was so deep in the code that it wasn't something to fix. So you just spelt receive wrong when you were accessing that function. Okay. Next, we want to fill up these node windows. I think we're just going to go into each of the specific classes and start filling them out based on what they need. I've got all the functions, so it should be quick. It's just I need to access whatever variables it is. So we have one of them already set up, this event focus camera. So let's see which variables I want off of focus camera. And there's focus camera, node event focus camera. So basically we have a class that shows as a display node for a class that exists. For event focus camera, there's a couple of variables that are important. This target transform, move speed, the lock X, and the locks Y transform. So we want to show all of those. We don't really actually care about node name. So I think we can do draw transform, event focus camera, and that one is target transform. Cerberus, good to see you too. Yeah, you missed me typoing things and compiler errors, but you were about to see a transform appear in there, I think. Awesome. So that is our generic transform. So that code we set up beforehand made it so I just could call one line, this little draw line, and it goes ahead and actually draws something that we can drag things into there. But that's not really what we want. We actually want the ability to access a transform from a list of objects within the scene. And this is some code that I wrote beforehand. So we're going to have to go back and grab that. So we're actually not done with that, so I have to put something else on the list. Get item accessors from, what is it, node utility, in draw functions. We'll put that up first. So instead of having this empty transform where I can select anything in the world, what I wanted to do is have a drop-down list of the things that I can select. So I need to go put that in, and I have to remember where that code is. I do not remember where I was working on that, so I'm going to have to go look for it. I think it's in the node expector. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we have this object selection pop-up code. I already wrote it into a nice, neat function. So we're just going to take that function. We're going to put it in our node window. Looks like I don't have to do anything fancy for it. Oh, this is so great. I already have this code. I can literally just copy this code over and save myself a bunch of time. I'm going to edit it a little bit, but this should make our node focus window look really cool. I'm going to change up the music here a little bit. I'm on all rock music. So we're going to mix up the stream a little bit. Not that you can hear it, but I can hear it. We're at the end. I'll just let it go. I could access it directly. I should just do that. Let's see what this looks like. Nope, doesn't like it. What's our error? Let's put in a check so I don't keep getting this error. This is from a little while back. The object array is accessing this static utility which grabs all the objects in the scene. Make sure that my utility class is working. What is it? Node utility? Node editor utility. This guy. Here we go. Cerberus heard about the new collab. Are you talking about Crossing Souls? Because that's actually, although an article was posted about it today, that is old news for us. It was in one of our backer updates. But I'm super excited. And apparently we're releasing our games at about the same time. Hopefully just far enough apart. I need to just call this function. Yeah, I don't call it anymore. Let's do it when we open up the window. So that's a function that will go ahead and look through our entire code, and we'll grab the thing. What doesn't look like here? I think we do type of. Can I do that? Do type of for a generic type? Let's find out. Cool. Return. So it should just draw nothing in that stead, as opposed to giving me all these errors. Awesome, that's what we want. Good. And it will scream at me a whole bunch. So if I close the event editor and open it up, it should have a thing. Look at that. Yeah. Ah, this is so cool. I'm really excited about this. So what I did now is this is an event called the event focus camera. What this thing does right here, is when it triggers, it will make the game's camera focus on something. And so in an earlier version of it, you had to type in the name of the object that you wanted to focus, which means you need to know the name of every object in the game. Now, you can click this button and you have a list of every object in the game. Now, that's a huge list. I got to find a way to search through it. So I'll eventually be building a search function so you don't have to actually scroll through this, because being the camera, it can focus on any transform in the entire world. So it can focus on anything. That's not exactly what we wanted to do. In this case, we're going to be focusing on brick stone wood, which is around here somewhere. Yeah, see, I already need a search function. It's already not useful enough. But yeah, and that gives the brick stone wood transform, which will be shown when we spawn the game. But notice that it's really long. I don't want it really long. I want there to be little gaps between each of these. So let's update that visually. We're getting somewhere. We're doing like progress and stuff. Yeah, wow, much list. Very long. Yeah, and we don't even have lots of content in it. So that list is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as we create more stuff for the game. Cerberus, this is for the entire game. This editor that you use can be used to create everything from dialogue between characters to loading up backgrounds as you're flying around in space to making the transition between. Like you can do anything with this event system. Anything that we allow in the game, you can build it. Like I'm not saying we're going to, but like if you sat down and had these tools in front of you, like you could just build parts of Starr Mazer without knowing any code. There's still a whole bunch of process and like assets that need to get made, and you need to sort of understand the way logic works in game programming and whatnot to a certain degree. But I'm going to make that as easy as possible so the team members can focus on just making content really quick. For example, we have 2 writers on the team who are used to writing scripts. So I'm considering making it so that when you write dialogue between characters, it feels like writing a script. So it'll be one less layer of separation between what they actually do and what goes into the game. But that'll be refinements that happen later on. All right, event focus camera. I need the node thing here. We want this to be a vertical scroll. This will be a little bit better. Are these object selection pop-ups stacking? We got move speed, which is nice. What happened to these object selection pop-ups? Let's see. Editor layout pop-up label. It should work in tandem, but there's something going on with this. Oh, when it recompiles, I have to go get the new window. That's annoying. I'll need to fix that. See, there we go. That looks a little bit nicer. That's what we want. So yeah, the focus camera has a couple of properties. We have the target transform, which is what we're actually focusing on. We have the lock X and Y transform, which is whether you lock it on the X plane or the Y plane, so it won't go up and down or won't go left and right. For now, I don't want it to do anything, so I grab these filler objects right here. And the move speed is how fast the camera will zoom in on something. So we'll show this working in a little bit after we get through a couple more things. But I think it's going to break my transform list every time I recompile. If that's the case, I have to find all the objects every time I recompile, which is a very time-intensive process. And I'll have to figure out a solution for that. For now, let's just keep going on, and we'll worry about that in a moment. So, it's time to create some new classes. We have a node event focus camera, so let's create a bunch of other ones. Specifically, I'm interested in the, what do we got? Node event sequence and a node event trigger time since level load. Because that's the two things that are on here. And node event, node trigger time since level load. These all have specific names because they're for very specific classes. Let's load this up in our code editor. And we'll go ahead and make it look fancy. So it's going to look very similar to our node event focus camera. So we're going to take a lot of things from this. So it's a node window. So this is defining the its class inheritance. Then we want to actually have access to the trigger time since level load object, which will store like this. This. These are old things that I don't even use anymore. I should get rid of them. So because of all the work we've done in other classes, these classes start getting very simple. They have a an object in here which references the specific script that they are displaying. So there's an actual piece of code in the game that does all the functionality of whatever event we want. That's game code, and that is separate from this editor code. But the editor needs to grab an instance of that and expose all of its variables so we can edit those values through the editor, and then we'll work in the game. There's a sort of layer of separation between it. But I need an instance of that. So that's what this first thing is, right here, the whole serialized field section. Next, we need initialize. Initialize is just when we get that passed to us, that object. I'll just call it nature because I just have to grab it. Hello, Clovis 15. It is totally programming day. You're going to see lots of code. And yeah, Cerberus is on point. We're talking about event-focused cameras. We were, though. We're now talking about other things. We're also going to call the base initialize function, which will actually tell the node window, which is the generic superclass for all of these classes, that gives it the information to show the, where is it? This unlink and link and the close button and the debug button. I haven't done the debug button yet. We should do that. I should do that like next. All right, after I get this trigger working, we'll do our debug button. And then we'll do the event sequence. So I need to pass in new trigger as event base object. Base event, what are they called again? Event base object, yeah. I don't have access to it because I'm not using the event system. I created a namespace for the event system because that was a piece of code that we open source, and so I want it to be completely separate from everything else going on. Let's see here. All right, and then we have to override the draw node content. Yep. Just put in a check here. Just so we know why it's not drawing something. And then what we're going to do is we have this code in our node window, the old class. At least we should. It's not node inspector, that's where it is. So we grabbed event focus camera. Should have time since. No, I didn't make a custom one for that. So this is the perfect time to introduce our debug section. The way we did that before is we actually just exposed the properties through reflection and just barreled through them. And that's what that switch case was for. I might rewrite that switch case. It'll be a lot cleaner now, but it will still exist. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Luckily, I didn't scrap it. Where are you? It's just now going to have access to a bunch of functions. We're going to grab you. I'm going to put you in the node window. I don't think I need that boolean anymore. This is a pretty roundabout way of doing it. But it'll work. While I fill all these in, let's read some stuff. Clovis has learned that semicolons are the cause of the majority of programming errors. That is probably the case up to a certain point. But eventually you get past all the compiler error stuff, and that's just like typos, basically. And when you're at that point, compilers don't tell you what you did wrong anymore. You have to know what you did wrong. And then it gets a lot more interpretive because you get to the point where what is wrong? Because there's 20 different ways you can do something. For example, I'm writing this code. Someone else could write code that does literally the exact same thing in a very different way. So, which one's better? People debate about that all the time. I like debating about it. It's interesting. sponsored. Yeah, people are talking in the stream about what they thought, how they thought games were made. I really had no idea how games were made when I was younger. I knew that there was programming involved, so you would like write things on a computer. I didn't know or understand what programming was, how it worked, anything about it really, until I was, I don't know how old, maybe 12 or something. Coding is something I'm doing right now, but it's not something that I would make games in a different way if I could, which is sort of my interest in building this whole thing. Oh, I have a generic event that I can use. Awesome. This system. It's kind of more of how I want games to be made, which is cool that events like the blueprint system in Unreal exists, because you can make a lot of things without writing any code. It's all logic, so you can focus on just building a game, which is super sweet. So I can do this thing. Base.drawNode content. Let's see where that gets us. There's an error. Yes, you don't really exist or matter anymore. Look at this. Look at all this information we have now. All these things. These are all things that we built beforehand. No, we don't have access to the variables again. To close the window and open it up. That's the thing I gotta fix. I'll probably fix that tomorrow or something. So, what I just did was, we had a bunch of those generic functions that we were copying over. It was that boring section where we were just doing this whole like draw thing over and over and over again. It was over in this code. All these like basic draw functions that we did over and over again. That all allows us to draw all of this stuff that we now see here on the screen. And now we have a default way of drawing something, which is pretty cool, because now we can create a new event and already have all the information exposed. But this is a lot of information we don't necessarily always want to expose. In fact, we only want to expose this information when the debug thing has been checked, or if we don't have anything else. So what I did for the event trigger was I actually just went ahead and say draw that base node content. And so that shows everything. We don't actually want that. I want only this one value that says time since level load. So I'm going to edit that to only show that. So instead of doing this, let me comment that out real quick. Layout. What's this one? Editor GUI layout. Right. I need to use the editor. The value is trigger time since level load dot time since level load. There we go. And we'll leave it like that. I guess we'll label it. Yeah. So now this thing over here is going to change visually. It was supposed to change visually. It's showing everything. Did I grab the right thing? No, trigger time since level load. Yes, but we don't know that that's the one we want to grab. So it will change visually in a moment. I have to actually tell it to draw that one. We have a small piece of code that is going to get larger in the event editor window that tells us what we should draw. So this is a switch case that identifies what type of node window it is, and then draws the correct, or creates the correct node window. And we want to have an event. Let's get the thing so I can just copy it. Time sensitive load. This is the one we want. So, and what we'll do is we'll create a node, trigger time sensitive node, time node. We have to create an instance of this new thing, just for our editor though, nothing else. Time node dot initialize this object as and time sensitive node, because we've already identified that it is from this switch statement up here. We know what it is, so we can cast that. And then new node equals time node. Now when this updates, we should have just the time since level load variable displayed. Sweet. Well, that's weird. I have never seen this before. Let's fix this. That's not exactly what I wanted to draw. Apparently, NSMen and Clovis have built up some text adventures from BASIC that they did. That was some of the first programming I ever did, too. One of my buddies, actually Nickelpunk, loaned me a QBasic floppy drive, or floppy disk. And so I loaded that up, and I made a text adventure, and I found text adventures, and I started taking them apart. It was super fun. I really enjoyed doing it back then. Then I got into StarCraft. I built, used their trigger, their map editor, which a lot of the ideas can be seen in this node editor, sort of how the concept of triggers and events and how those tie to each other and the types of triggers and events you see. It's based off a lot of that foundational stuff that I worked on when I was, I don't know how many, 12 years old or whatever. So we're just showing a float field. Oh, did I put this in? I put the values in the wrong order. That was cool. I never saw it display that red value there. Sweet. Now we have a nice thing that edits the time since level load. Oh yeah, I need to actually set it to that. It's a long line of code. It wasn't actually changing the value. It was just reading it. There we go. Now I can say how long since it loads do we go ahead and do this thing. All right. Wonder if I can just do this. What I can do. Update object references. This is a way to do this thing, I think. It might still slow the game down a lot, so I'm not sure if I'm going to want to use this as a permanent solution. But sweet, look at that. We got our fix this thing over here without making our compile times stupid. Cool. All right, now we have this whole system thing set up. This should be usable. Let's find out. We're going to go ahead and apply these changes. Close that. Save. All right. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't run the game in a while. I've been working on undo code and stuff. So we're going to hit play and see if it breaks. It could just crash. Hey, look at that. It didn't. And it focused on him. Notice how the camera moved all the way up to Brick? So the camera is actually following Brick. And so that's why we're getting these tables everywhere. Let me make it so I can walk around. But yeah, that's what our script is doing. It's actually following Brick around. So I don't like that the tables are floating into the air. We don't want that. So I'm going to fix that. What we need to do is we need to go back to that prefab. Bring it out here so we can edit it. Go back into our event editor. So we have a couple of extra values here, the lock X transform, the lock Y transform. We actually want to lock this Y transform on what it says. That's interesting. That should work, but I guess I'm doing something wrong. Did it actually grab that variable? It did. Interesting. So it works. It's not supposed to work. It's not supposed to float up. Oh, maybe it's because this guy is right there. Let me try setting this again. See what happens. When I hit apply, that goes like that. Let's see what actually happens with values. I might need some null values to associate it with. It just says none, so that should work. Let's see what happens. See if we get different results. Now we're still getting these floaty tables. If we look at it, it's focusing on him. Oh, yeah. I want one of them to be locked. Lock Y on there. I have to figure out why that's not locking to what I want it to lock to. I think levitating tables could be a thing, but we want to control that. It does this thing where it auto-assigns it. I don't like that. I'm going to have to fix that at some point. For now, let's just set the Y. There we go. Yeah. So now the camera will only scroll side to side. This is what we want. Look at that. So that whole sequence is controlled. This is a sequence that loads up as soon as we start the game, which is why when I edited it while the game was running, it didn't do anything. Literally, this is what's happening. If we go to the event editor and we look at this sequence, what we do is we have a trigger that says when are we going to trigger this event sequence, and it's going to trigger when the time since level load is 0. So literally as soon as the level loads up, we're going to trigger this. We have this thing which is called an event sequence, which actually manages the whole state. If you were on the last programming stream, you might some of this might sound familiar because it's running the same thing that we used to run the boss patterns and the laser firing things that we did before. It's all run through the same event system. So yeah, we've got this event sequence that just manages the flow of the state. We can set up a couple of things, like if we want it to be repeatable or not. If we're randomizing it, we can set up its priority and wait. And then finally, the last bit is the actual code that we want to do something, which is the event focused camera. So what it does is it looks for a transform called of Brick Stonewood, which is the main character. And what we do is we don't lock the X, but we lock the Y on the camera itself. So the Y doesn't adjust because it's its own camera, but the X will go to where Brick's X is, which is running the camera code. Oh, there's a secret over there. Oh, I can just go through the world. Yeah, we'll fix that later. But yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you're noticing that he doesn't walk because I don't have a walk animation implemented in yet. Cerberus is saying that shouldn't the camera always keep Brick in the middle of the screen? We'll find out what's appropriate for each location. We can actually adjust that, and I'll probably actually add some more things on how tight we can adjust this. Right now, I just have it set to speed right now, but I should probably create variables on how tight the camera locks to that. I like the idea that you can move around in a space a little bit before the camera shifts, and sort of highlighting areas of interest. We might even do something where instead of having the camera follow along you, you walk to a certain point and then the camera moves to sort of a new scene. I'll be adding in that functionality as we deem it necessary in the game. But for now, I just have this smooth thing so that if I happen to have large areas that we can scroll in, you can just go there and it looks a little nice with the taper on there. Sweet. So let's see here. What have we finished something? Get item accessors from node utility. Yes, we did that. Fix that. Fill out classes for node windows. We're still in the process of doing that. We'll see how many we can get done. Test to make sure event works. We just did that, and it totally just worked. We haven't tested all the events, and some of them are broken from way back, so we'll probably remake some of them. But we know that one works, so that one's good. Now we want to let's do this display debug window because it's actually super simple to do. And I can show an example of it with one of our events that we have right now. So let's bring this out into our workspace. So we've got this event focus camera, and you notice that it only shows a couple of variables, but the event focus camera actually has a bunch of stuff. This event focus camera, this thing right here, is the same thing as this component over here in the right. And you'll notice that this component on the right has a bunch more information, such as order, wait for event to be. It's got some generic information. Plus, we have full control over what the transforms are as opposed to using the drop-down list. So I want to be able to expose this in this window editor in case something really weird's going on, or we want to do something very specific, or basically if someone else breaks it and I want to go see what's going on, I want to be able to access that debug information. So Cerberus is asking about that pizza in the inventory. If you want to know why that pizza is in the inventory, you can actually go to a previous episode of Starr Mazer TV where Bodhi Lee was over, because that's not any ordinary pizza. That is the Bodhi Litza, which is a very important object. You can see that I implemented that in game in like 20 minutes or something like that. But it's sort of just stuck in the inventory until then, because I haven't had anything else that I needed to put into Brick's inventory. So it's one of the items right now. Yeah, NS Man knows about the Bodhi Litza. So we're gonna make this little toggle thing actually turn on debug info. So let's go back to our node event focus camera. So we have this nice little thing. But if details, do I have access to that? Event focus camera dot data details. If we're not showing the details, we want this. I'll probably reverse that. Let's do this. Base dot draw node content. So this should give us access to our debug window. I keep getting this error. Getting control through its position, going through controls and doing repaint aborting. Oh, it's during the first load. Yeah, it's fine. So now I have this debug button, and now it shows all of the information, plus manual controls for it, so I can actually specifically access ID information of the things that are being selected. Interesting that it doesn't display ID information for these guys. I wonder if I can get it to display ID information. Nope. Whatever. Don't need it. So yeah, now we have this cool debug thing where we can display all the detailed information of this specific node. This could be useful if I want to check out exactly what's going on or a bug happens or something like that. But most of the time, we just want these nice little views that are easy to read, easy to access. Even this visual, I want to make these a lot more intuitive, a lot more viewable. I'll probably want to do things like bring up help tips when you hover over, maybe make it look even more visually appealing, easier to touch and interact with. But yeah, we have that working. So our debug view is good, and we can set that up on anything. So we'll do that as we create each of the classes. But for now, that one is checked. So the last thing we have to do is just fill out a bunch of these for the node windows. So fortunately, I think we just display generics for any node window. Let's find out. Can I see this one? Blink. I want to. Here we go. Boom. Hey, look at that. It's all working and stuff with our new windows. This is great. It's displaying all the generic info, so we need to actually go bring up the old one. So this is one of our more complicated events that I have right now, and this one's not even done. This is the interaction of you talking with Slimo. So we have a couple of triggers that signify if you go ahead and talk with Slimo. So you click talk and click on Slimo. It'll actually bring up a series of options. But this is all super hard to read. There's all this tons of information. I'm going to make this a little bit simpler by doing that task, which is to fill this out. And then I'll show you exactly what this does, because this should still be working in the game. So we're going to create a couple new node windows. I'm going to use as my guide the node inspector, I think. Yeah, okay. So event trigger mode info. Yeah, let's do this one. Let me get the name of it first. Event trigger mode. I'm just going to create all of these classes. Maybe I'll do it. No, screw it. I'll do them one at a time. My water's almost done. The stream's almost up. 5:38. Got another 20 minutes left. Let's see how far we can get. Shop here for now. I'm going to make this a little bit easier on us. Do some copy pasta. It's weird that it does that. Trigger mode sounds cool. Makes me think of, I don't know, some sort of feature. Oh, I need to get access to the draw bitmask field. Forgot about that one. Let us do that. Just take this, slap it at the bottom. NSman is asking if I saw the Polygon article. I did notice the article where Don and I were on the front page of Polygon. That was an exciting day. And they were talking about how loud we were. The article is called "An Evening of Screaming with the Starr Mazer devs." It's pretty great. Do we see the interview from IGN on YouTube? If you're talking about the PAX South one, where Don goes all out, yes, it's great. You should totally watch that and read that. Yeah, An Evening of Screaming. Yeah, we get excited about this game that we get to make for you all. We don't hold back. I think I'm going to do that. Thanks, Ian. You're pretty awesome, too. All right, did anything break? Yeah, I mean, Cerberus says they like people who are genuinely excited for the game and express it. Like, I don't know, if you're not excited about what you're working on, what are you doing, right? Like, I mean, you probably have a pretty good reason. Otherwise, you should just work on something you're excited about. Let's see here. All right, the next one that we have to do. We just did the trigger. Let's see, event dialog choice. Event dialog choice. Because of this game, I now know how to spell dialogue. You can actually spell it multiple ways, apparently. I'm choosing the one with the U in it. Oh man, Laser Kid's here. Hey, Laser Kid. Oops, let's Got that wrong. There we go. Is that how I want everything to display? Yeah, this is sort of old a little bit. This displays an array of dialog choices, and dialog choices are now single ones. You can actually have a single event do all three. I'm going to leave the functionality in there, but it should be depreciated. Cerberus, you're getting a brick perler. Did you get one made? I want to see it when it's done. I'm totally jealous. I've done some perlers. I have actually a perler right here. I use it as a coaster. This is from Bosses Forever. My friend made a couple of Bosses Forever perlers, and then I went over to her place and made a couple myself. I use it for my coaster now. And they're cute. I've got a few of them. All right. Some more brute force work. I'm just filling in the blanks at this point. Thanks, Service. I think it's pretty cool too. I'll have to go fill out all those correctly. Oh wait, no, I don't want that at all. Get rid of this. Okay, next one. A complicated one. Sprite animation. Node event sprite. Node event sprite animation. filling out a bunch of this info. This is the node that displays the sprite animator, which allows us to call animations such as brick talking or brick walking. We use this in our one where he talks to Slimo. Okay. That looks good. What's the next one? Event trigger click. Okay. Ian asks, can Brick walk and talk at the same time, or is he a one verb at a time kind of guy? Brick's kind of simple, but I think he could manage to walk and talk. Depends on what he's saying. We are getting close to being complete. 2 more? Looks like that. No, we already did focus camera. Should display dialogue. This might be the last one. For now. There's always more. Event display dialogue. This song I'm listening to right now, super dope. Check out Tanuki if you want good music. Everyone's giving a lot of praise for Shovel Knight in the stream, and I could not agree more. Fantastic game. Having grown up on the Mega Man games, I was really excited to see how well they performed that. It's might just be better than Mega Man 2. It just might be. It's a good game. All right. We have moved pretty much all the functionality of this class over.